You're listening to RevUp, a podcast about faith, family, and moto. I'm John Parkinson, president of Panic Rev Ministries.
And I'm Zac Cummins, former Supercross racer. We're sitting down each week to talk with professional athletes about the unique crossroads of Christian life and action sports, to offer you a view into the motivations that drive those at the top.
Welcome back to another episode of RevUp. We've missed you the last couple weeks. Zac and myself have been in Texas for a camp. Believe it or not, I got Zac to come out of his house, come out of hiding, join us at camp and have a rad time sharing Jesus and doing some cool stuff on dirt bikes and over at Swan in Texas. So how was that for you, Zac, getting out and into the public eye? I was there, so I witnessed it. But how you feeling?
It was a crazy change on a lot of fronts, right? I mean, I think the first note is, like, we've had the routine of doing this podcast every week for, the last 8 weeks, it seems like now. And then not having that cadence was a change. But dude, yeah, getting outside the house was huge too. Like I straight up did the quarantine, like was in the house for about 3.5 months. Given my living situation, which I've explained before with my dad and just not wanting to have any chance of bringing the virus back. And, but yeah, camp was a big enough calling for me, and was fortunate enough to speak with the Paytons beforehand, and they offered for me to come stay here. They've got like a little extra spot I can stay at their house. So yeah, we went to Texas, dude. It was a little intimidating for me, I'll be honest, but it was super cool. It was super rad. I think one of the biggest things, and we've talked about this, but being in Texas at the camp and then having more than one person that had come to camp because they had heard the podcast and wanted to come and be a part of what we were doing. Yeah. That was super encouraging. I was stoked about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Camp is unreal. Like it really is. It's my favorite thing we do at Panic Rev. We get to do a lot of cool stuff, but that is by far the best thing that I get to do. And from seeing kids perform on bike, from seeing people get baptized and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, to talk to a couple people, to hear about camp through this podcast that two dorks, you and myself, are doing, that's unreal to me. So makes everything we're doing worth it, and just had an awesome time. So
definitely, yeah, getting out and being around moto again, being around friends. I mean, for me, it's been a long time since I've been around a motocross community.
Yeah.
I mean, through this, I've been kind of diving back into the bench racing side of things, which has been fun. But being around just riders and motocrossers, that family network that we have, it was pretty rad to be a part of that again and hang out with you guys. And then been back, still haven't been back to the house. So I left the house and I've been exiled from the house now. Hopefully I'll return in the next few weeks. But it's been fun to kind of rejoin the world.
Yeah. Talking about rejoining the world, we kind of again missed the end of Supercross, and just talking about it a little bit, touch on that. Bummed Shane didn't pull it off. All the pieces were kind of there for him, but at the end of the day, it didn't happen. Got a red flag. Kind of had a couple mistakes, and straight up, as he said, he got beat.
Yeah. I mean, right at the end of the day, like, we both love Shane. Dude left everything out there, right? And like some controversial stuff that people have been dogging him for, and whether that's right or wrong. I mean, he did everything he could to win the championship. I know that's what I would do if I were in that position, and totally respect that. And yeah, he owns it. Like, straight up, Chase was faster at the end of the night. When it mattered, if he could have reeled him back in, he could have maybe done something and won it. But Chase had the speed and put it together. We saw Eli come through in the 450s, prove that he is the guy that we thought he was going to be this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought he would be that for the last few years, but really delivered. It'll be crazy to see how he builds on that going forward. Zacho won the last round. That was sick. Another one of our guys. I think our podcast brought some good fortune.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, Zacho winning, we've taken a turn with the outdoors. We thought we were going racing. I believe it's supposed to be next weekend.
I think the 15th.
I got pushed back again to August. What are your thoughts there?
Right. Well, of course, it's a bummer as a spectator, as a fan. It's a bummer. As someone that's friends with a lot of the racers, a lot of people that own teams or run teams or work with teams, it's difficult because it's their livelihood.
Yep.
At the same time, it's kind of just a product of the situation we're in.
Yeah.
No one is above this. No one's exempt from this situation. As restaurants close down again and restaurateurs feel it, also motocross community is feeling it. It's a bummer. I am curious, and again, kind of going back to my pessimistic self, not sure that it's going to happen even next month. We'll see. Yeah. I've kind of overheard some conversations about reducing the number of races, maybe trying to reduce the number of venues. But as we've talked about previously, outdoors is not, it doesn't have the large enough draw on television to really run those races and be profitable without a large number of ticket sales. The venues can't afford to host the race without the ticket sales. So while we're in this situation, not allowing groupings of, more than 100 usually is kind of like the largest standard I'm aware of anywhere in the country right now. Limiting beneath that, it doesn't really work out. So until that changes, I don't see how we could have an outdoor race.
Yeah. I mean, again, we go back to GNCC. GNCC's been racing. GNCC is racing this weekend.
Are they still with spectators or?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that kind of under the radar, or do you know what the specifics are there? How do they get away with it, but outdoors?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And again, it's out in the sticks per se,
Sure.
So maybe they get away with a few things here and there in saying, hey, we have X amount of acres or whatever to meet these standards. So I don't know, but I too have a hard time believing that the outdoor series is going to go, and most definitely not have 11, 12 rounds. I think it's going to be tough to even get like 6 rounds, being that we've taken such a huge step backwards with the COVID stuff in the last week or so, and things getting shut down again in certain areas, especially here in California, and a couple other states are pretty. I think
most states are really starting to pump the brakes again, and I think as we hopefully with that, I guess the theory is, I mean, as we pump the brakes, we'll then see numbers start to come back down, and then I don't know, maybe we'll go back into this, maybe we'll stay in it longer. I'm not sure, but but either way, like you say, with GNCC racing and Zacho going GNCC racing straight off of, I mean, not immediately back to back, but straight off an SX win going GNCC racing, it's pretty unheard of as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, no one's ever done that. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever won a Supercross, period,
and back to GNCC.
Went and raced some off-road stuff.
What do you think about it? You're pretty close. You guys talk about it at all yet, or not yet?
We haven't. I've texted him a little bit, but not like anything deep. I'm pumped. Like, Zach's the type of dude that I just want to go racing, and honestly, all those guys really just want to go racing.
But hey, listen, they all have the chance. I mean, I'm not dogging anyone, but everyone's got the chance to line up for it. I mean, my cousin was texting me the other day and was like, "Hey, dude, when this got postponed, do you think anyone's going to go try to race a GP?" Yeah. And I said, I don't think anyone wants to race bad enough to do that big of a leap. But the GNCC is right there.
Yeah. The only difference is Zach is that guy, in my opinion, right?
Sure.
Like, I think a guy like Eli or Kenny or someone like that Eli might be able to, but he's too much of a just pin it and go.
Sure.
Zach's he's done it before.
That's fair.
He's pretty well-rounded in riding, and that takes a special person.
Certainly. He's well-versed in that type of racing, and it certainly is different from track racing.
Yeah. So
on that note, I recently agreed somehow in the last 24 hours, I've agreed to you're in these group texts, right?
Yeah.
In the last 24 hours, I've agreed to 2 major off-road races, a 10-hour at Glen Helen in less than a month, and a 24-hour at Glen Helen in like a month and a half. I haven't ridden a dirt bike more than a lap in probably 2 years.
Yeah. Now that you put that in the public's eye, it's got to go down.
I think it's going down either way, man. Like with how quick Josh Mosman and Brandon Krause jumped on getting bikes and having parts for bikes.
Yeah.
I felt like I definitely stepped in deeper than I wanted to.
That's fun.
I'm a little concerned about actually concerned about my health. I'm really out of shape.
Yeah. Well, like I said in our text, you better get a road bike, mountain bike, dirt bike and
Something.
start doing something. So
I told them, I texted right away and said, let me know what the purse money is. If we get a big enough prize, I'll start running and try to get some fitness under me, and we can make a real run of this.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with motocross on hiatus and not really knowing the future, this guy that we have today, Benny Bloss, excited about what's going on with him and hearing what's going to happen here in the near future with him racing for Rocky Mountain or not, right?
Yeah, or otherwise, yeah.
A lot of things out in the open or
up in the air, at least.
Up in the air, yeah, to see what's going to happen in outdoors and or if we even go outdoor racing, what's going on next year in Supercross. So we're going to welcome Benny to the show. Benny, welcome to the show, man. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me. How you doing? How are y'all doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're doing good, or I'm doing well.
Yeah.
You got a sweet background there, man. Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, so went home to Missouri to see my family and do some riding this week, and now my wife and I are headed back, and she's captain, and I'm back of the van.
Perfect. Right on. What was going on out in Missouri?
So went home, got a new track in Missouri that my dad's a part of, and kind of did some test laps on it, did some motos and stuff. Just go home and see them a little bit as well. It was nice to see my family as well as my wife's family. But now we're headed back to the great state of Oklahoma.
That's cool. Have some time to burn, man. We just got done talking about motocross and what's going on there, and who knows, in my opinion, really, who really knows what's going on or if anything's going to be going on. Yeah. What's your thoughts on things? What's going on with you?
It's definitely different. It's weird. I hear so many rumors about like what's gonna happen with outdoors, and I mean they seem like they want to try to get it done and try to do it. So I'm all for going racing. I would much rather do that than sit at home and just train every day for nothing. Definitely changed up everyday life though, that's for sure. I think other places are probably worse off than Oklahoma and Missouri, but yeah, it's weird. It's really weird.
Are you like right now, are you just training as if you're going, like, were you prepping to start in a week, and then once you found out you weren't, you just continue the exact same program of like 30s each day?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, so like we had the first time they postponed Supercross was after Daytona.
Yeah.
And as soon as they postponed like a couple of the races, I went directly into outdoor prep as if we weren't going to race Supercross. And then I didn't take any time off. I just did outdoor prep. And then we found out we were racing Supercross, so it went straight to Supercross prep. And then after Supercross, I took maybe 3 days off and then just right back to outdoor prep because we thought we only had a month. And then it gets postponed. So I think maybe if they postpone it again, I'll probably take a week and maybe go somewhere and just relax. It's been gnarly though, that's for sure.
So you say you went outdoor prep right away that week after Daytona, but that was the week that you switched to the Rocky Mountain bike, right? So was the plan, as soon as you jumped on that, was the plan to finish out Supercross and outdoors?
Originally the plan was just Supercross. And then when that happened, we thought we were going to be able to race outdoors, and it was unclear whether Bogle was going to be back or not. So
because it was going to be shifted forward a bit.
Yeah, so they basically just said, be ready for whatever you can be ready for. And while I had that bike, it was like, okay, I have to use every day that I possibly can, because I don't want to go back, that's for sure. But we'll see.
Yeah. So in a sense, was that time, I mean, do you think that time was, I mean, it sounds like you weren't really unsure of whether or not you'd be riding the bike, right? So it's almost like that time was kind of a blessing, and then you got to test and get more ready before Salt Lake, with that quick adjustment.
Oh, definitely. Like on paper, my results were pretty much the same in Salt Lake as they were like right before the break.
Yeah.
And which is like fine and all, but like in person, I was a completely different rider. I
Yeah.
think because of the time that I had to prep, like all throughout Supercross, I had a bunch of like lingering little injuries. Like I came in injured, and then it seemed like every week I would hurt something just a little bit.
Mhm.
And then the whole time through like quarantine, I was like, I never had any crashes. I was just like very consistent. And I think that was like my biggest thing. But yeah, I personally found the brake to be good and used it to my advantage. That's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of the switch, where are you at now? Like, I know you're getting ready for outdoors. You're going to be riding for the team for outdoors, right?
Well, I thought I was going to, and I don't really know for sure now, because I think Bogle is going to come back to racing. He's been riding a good bit.
Yeah.
And so basically I'm just kind of waiting to find out. Probably should know within like the next week or so what's going to happen, but
Gotcha.
Are you
that's a little stressful.
You're on a
Yeah.
KTM. You're on a KTM now, though.
Yeah, I'm still riding their bike until they tell me to stop. I'm going to use it every day.
Absolutely. I'm with that, dude.
Yeah. Hopefully there's not a switch for you. I mean, personally, and then you're gonna have to switch everything up if there is.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan B?
Plan B is take this van that I'm in, buy a couple dirt bikes, and see where we can go.
All right.
It's definitely better having the races be postponed. We're gonna have less races than 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that will make it a little easier if I do have to go in the van. But we'll see. I'm really hoping maybe we can get something worked out, but whatever happens, and make it work.
Dude, that privateer mission is gnarly. I've done 2 outdoors, like, period, but both of, because I rode for, on the West Coast, like satellite West Coast, we were pretty low budget. So we were Supercross only. And then I was like, I want to do a couple outdoors. So I went to Glen Helen and Washougal just in my own pickup truck with my dad. And like in my head, it seemed like it would go a lot better than it did. Trying to do outdoors with that little resource was so gnarly. So it was pretty brutal.
Especially like some of Washougal to Unadilla, who's going by themselves in a little truck or a little van, and so expensive.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
No, I definitely lost money because I remember I've told John this story, but dude, it was Washougal, and there was a section right before the mechanics area where there was like a inside option roller with one of those like little yellow track markers on the top. And I think I got like a 3rd or 4th place start, second moto. And so I was like up near the front. I came by first lap and everyone jumped to the left of the track marker. Like you cut the track off the top of the single. So I did it for the first like 8 laps of the race. And then all of a sudden, like whatever lap 8 or 9, there was a hay bale there blocking it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I got home and got a letter in the mail saying I had been fined $300 for having cut the track during the race. But I was like, dude, I crashed out of both motos. I made like $300 total. So I just lost money straight up both ways.
I don't know if you made $300. Like,
yeah, well, I mean,
calculating
I really did
travel.
I lost a bunch of money with all of it, but like the little bit they were going to give me, they like took back because I cut the track marker.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that happen, of anybody getting a fine like that.
Dude, I was bummed, dude. I wasn't the only one because I remember I called Adam Ciancerillo right away and was like, "Yo, did you get this also?" Because I like physically saw you do it too. Like, so I don't think I was the only guy, but I was pretty upset about it.
Wow.
Outdoors.
Yeah,
sucks.
it's definitely hard to make money. That's for sure. It's so expensive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it speaks to where our sport's at too. I mean, not to be negative about it, but I mean, to like have your back in the sense that, dude, you won a freaking heat race. Like recently, like a few weeks ago, you won a heat race, and yet you're in the position that you're like, I might load up my van and head out to keep it going. That's just berserk to me. That, and I get right with the coronavirus situation, like economically, everyone's in hard times, but it seems like our sport has kind of been at that level for a couple years now, where a guy like you can kind of just be right there in flux of whether you really get the ride that I think you deserve with the finances that go with that, or this kind of just continue to grind, but pull out top fives. I mean, outdoors, your results have been really awesome.
Well, thank you. It's definitely a problem with there's more good riders than there is rides.
Sure.
And each year it seems like it gets worse. It seems like not a whole lot of guys have been retiring lately, and a lot of guys have been moving up.
Yep.
And so there's only a certain number of spots, and it seems like there's less teams and less teams and less teams.
Yeah.
And it's definitely stressful. But I've never really I've maybe had 1 year where I actually signed a contract before Supercross was over. Other than that, it was like I didn't sign a contract for the next year until like Washougal or Unadilla.
Yeah.
And it's just, it makes it so stressful.
Yeah.
But I mean, thankfully I've been able to have rides and not had to go in the van as much as other people, but
sure. Yeah.
Definitely stressful, that's for sure.
Real quick, what are your thoughts on you touched on rides and not enough rides really. What are your thoughts on points in the 250 class? And we have a couple guys coming out of the 250 class pointing out. Do you think that could, like, the sport has changed so much? The 125 class came in as an introductory ground level thing. Now we have people getting paid pretty big money.
Yeah, you can make $1 million. Yeah, you can make $1 million a year racing that class now.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you should have to get pushed out.
What are your thoughts there on the 250 class? You might not go back, but you're like 7'5".
He looks excited, but like he doesn't want to say. Look at that smile.
It's hard for me to say because I never was in the position. I didn't even race a full season of 250 Supercross.
Yeah.
But you can ride 250 outdoors.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think it's a little dumb because you got guys like, everybody gave Martin Davalos a hard time for being in the 250 class for so long. And like, I get it. I probably did it. I probably said some things a few times too, but like when you think about it, that dude was making good money every year.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, oh, look at that dude. He's still in the 250 class. Yeah. He's also making a lot more money than me, but 250 rider.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel bad for people like Shane because like there's nowhere to go. If there was, 25 factory 450 rides, I wouldn't feel like it's an issue, but I think maybe they should change the rules a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have hard opinions on it. Like I don't see an issue at this point of
with
somebody
the rule
being there the whole time.
You're saying with changing the rule. You're saying they shouldn't have the rule in place. They shouldn't push people out. Yeah,
you win 2 titles, you're gone. You don't win any titles,
stay forever.
Stay forever.
I agree with the 2 titles thing. That's, if you can win back-to-back Supercross championships, it's probably time for you to move up.
Yeah. Let me take back what I said. Win 2 titles. You win a title, you could back it up, and then you got to move out.
Yeah. So you're saying after you win a title, you get 1 year and then you go.
Yes.
Whether you get a chance to defend, which is a part of the rule right now. And I totally agree with that rule. But yeah, like you say, like guys pointing out, like Jeremy Martin, right? Jeremy Martin was on track to point out or not show up to the races.
Right.
Like he's not going to get a ride. I mean, no fault of his own other than the injury that he had last year. He's not going to get a ride. So homie has to just not show up to the race and sandbag. That costs a lot of people money.
Yeah.
That are trying to pay him. It takes another guy off the gate. In the 250 class, we had what looked like 15 riders on the gate at one point. I mean, I think there were like 30, but there were a bunch of empty spots.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where, I think certain rules need revision, but they're a little slow to catch up.
Yeah, I think if more people did what Jeremy did and like publicly say, this is why I'm doing this,
sure,
they would probably be like, okay, we need to change the rule because like you can't be losing. The 250 class is split already.
Yeah.
You can't be losing more of the top guys.
Yeah.
I think you're right there. I think the honesty is a big part of it because, I mean, definitely the general public, I mean, prior to Jeremy saying it the way he did, I think the general public maybe doesn't realize how often it happens, right? Because someone will have like some sort of mysterious practice crash that leads to a sore shoulder, but I can ride outdoors. I'll be okay. I'm just going to start prepping. And that's happened a bunch of times with a lot of brand name guys. So yeah, I think maybe honesty about it would be a bit of a changer.
So, yeah. Well, talking about a little bit of roughing it in your van, going out to, if you have to, doing that shows toughness. And one thing that's pretty tough is back in like 2014. Benny decided to go to Loretta's like we all do, but jump into the creek and have some chaos. I was on your Instagram. I don't know how Zac came about it, whether he remembered or what.
I was there, dude.
How gnarly it was. Like, what the heck were you doing, man? And let people know, like, I didn't know of the story until today.
Homie was still on the podium to like quick intercede in this story. It was a big deal because he was like in crutches, blood leaking out of the boot as he climbed up for the podium interview. So it was stupid, but I mean, dumb and tough.
That was a pretty terrible week for me. I was so confident coming into the race.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Saturday when I did it. So like Monday practice. So Saturday before Monday practice. And so we were jumping off this tree and I was doing flips into the water. And it was kind of like, it wasn't a tree a lot of people knew about.
Yeah.
It was kind of back hidden. And the kid, I wanted a picture or a video. And this kid that was with me, his phone died. I'm like, oh, we got to go get my phone and come back. And so my dad came back with us. And to this day, he can't be mad at me for it because he was saying, calling me a baby because I wouldn't do a gainer off of it. And I hit something. Don't know what it was, but it was brutal. And like at first, they told me they thought I went to the really small hospital right down the road from Lorett, and the doctor walked into the doorway, didn't walk into the room yet. He just kind of like looked at my foot and he was like, I'm not touching him. You need to get him out of here.
No way.
Was there blood everywhere?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And dude,
it was
creek,
the nurses.
That creek is so dirty too, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was the nurse's third day on the job, and she could not get the blood to stop.
Yeah.
So they put me in an ambulance, sent me to Nashville, and I get into this. At the time, they were telling me I cut my artery, and I was freaking out because anytime I had ever heard of anybody cutting their artery, like they died.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm freaking out, thinking I'm gonna die, and then I get to the Nashville hospital, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just throw some stitches in it. Yeah, you'll be good. And I was like, you think I can race? They're like, I mean, if you take the pain, yeah, I don't see why not. And so it was like two completely different reactions from two different hospitals. And so I took Sunday, relaxed, rested. I skipped practice. And then my sight lap for my first moto, I decided to only do one class. I did the sight lap for the first moto, and I remember pulling in, and I told I don't remember who, maybe Donnie Luce, the Yamaha guy.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. And he goes, you're fine. You're fine. Just go. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Just go. And like the first 5 laps were great because I had so much like adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then it started to set in. But I think I went 3-1-4 for second. So
that's gnarly.
Overall,
dude.
It was all right. But honestly, the coolest feeling was the first moto I crutched. I got up to the line and like I crutched through the people, and everybody just like stopped what they were doing and were just like staring at me and like mouths like
what?
And I was like, it was cool.
That's
especially funny. To end up getting second. It was cool for sure.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I had
It's so gnarly.
I had a year at Loretta's. No, I mean, that was brutal. I remember it. I remember watching. I don't think we were racing each other that year, but I remember watching it. It was gnarly.
Yeah.
I think I was in the A class that year, but dude, I had a year in my one of my B years at Loretta's where I was staying with the Ciancerulos in Florida. I was at a local race like 2 or 3 weeks before Loretta's, and tried to take a dude out. Like came in, like fully teed this guy up, trying to take him out and missed. He squared me up and put me into a tree. And when I hit the tree, I smashed my foot, and I broke my foot like across the top, and then dislocated one of my toes. And came back to the truck. A medic came over and like set my toe for me. But then Alan explained basically, if your foot's broken, obviously you can't race Loretta's. You got to go back to California. So I decided right then, like, okay, the foot, just what he's saying is obviously it's broken, but I can't say it's broken because then he'll be responsible for it. Right. So I just iced it every day and would shove it back into the boot and just like deal with it for the next, whatever it was, 2 weeks. And then race Loretta's, didn't get second. I think I got like 8th or 7th. It was one of my worst years at Loretta's. I think I got 8th. But went home and got an x-ray like the day I got home. And that, dude, I was so stoked when I got the x-ray and it like showed the break all the way across. I remember like smiling really big, and the nurse lady that did it was like, are you okay? Like, I said it's broken. I was like, yeah, that's great. It's really good. I'm really glad.
Not as big as a pansy as I thought.
Like I cried at the practice track a few times trying to still do my motos. So this is really good news. Yeah.
Made you feel tougher.
Right. Yeah. But dude, those soft tissue ones are gnarly. I had a crash at Mini O's one year where I had a gash in my thigh like that big that had to get stapled. And dude, I thought back to your Loretta's thing, and I was like, oh, I'm good. Like I'll be all right. Like I'll just ride with it. Right. And woke up the next morning and was like, yeah, 0 chance. There's no, we're book a ticket. We're going home. Like there's no way. I was like, I'll just ride. Like if the staples rip, they rip. We're good. And my dad's like, bud, it's not going to happen. And then, yeah, the next morning it was all swollen and stiff. And I was like, no, not going to do that.
Yeah. I had, so Monster Cup 2018.
Jeez. As a pro, not as an AM.
Yes.
Okay.
As a pro.
Yeah.
Okay. So I lacerated my Versa sac.
Okay.
In my knee. And so like there was a bunch of fluid everywhere, and like my knee was just huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I told the doctor, like, I'm going to try to race. So you need to figure a way for me to be able to race. Yeah. And so we did the little surgery, and he stapled it. And so I went to the race. Nobody knew that I had knee surgery 8 days before. And the first practice, the staples kind of tore a little bit. And the second practice, they completely ripped through the scar. Yeah. And then so they took them out. Asterix took them out for the last practice, and I tried to ride without them, and it was just like ripping open. Oh. Yeah. And it was so bad. I think that was maybe more painful than my foot. I think honestly, not to like make anything less of the foot thing at all, but I think staples are kind of worse to try to ride with, in my opinion, because I've ridden with stitches before, and you've still got that flex of the thread, the flex of the whole wound can kind of move around a bit, and it's all right. The staples, like you're pretty locked in, and it just starts to pull through the skin. I 100% agree with that. When I did the foot, I ripped the stitches out every moto, but it's not the same. Yeah. So it's not the same. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I've been on record, but moto's just so gnarly. Like, right? Like, I don't know. There's not many stories like that in football. There's a couple, like Ronnie Lott. You guys might not know who Ronnie Lott is. The dude dislocated his thumb or his pinky or something in a Super Bowl, and the doctor's like, "Oh, you can't play anymore." He goes, "Well, chop it off then." Right? Like there's little things like that, which is super gnarly, but you don't hear about that kind of stuff in mainstream sports. They chopped it off. Oh yeah.
For real? Oh,
amputated his pinky? And he went back in. Absolutely. No. Yes.
Wait, for real?
No way.
100%.
No way.
Why? Why wouldn't you just let it dangle?
That's what happened.
I'd say like zip tie the thing to my palm or something. Don't lop it off.
They lopped it off, dude. Oh. And so yeah, there's not many stories like that in mainstream sports. But moto, it's like every day, dude. Like so gnarly.
Yeah. So Benny, I got something for you while we're in the deep past, right? What was it? I think 2013. I remember not like just being honest, not really knowing who you were. Like I think I saw you at like Mill Creek, like a couple races here and there, right around B class time. But I think it was 2013 or 2012. I think it's 2013 at Freestone. They started doing those like fast lap award things, the Oakley Bomb thing, right? And you, if I'm not mistaken, set the fastest lap out of anyone by like a ways.
That was 2014.
Okay, 2014. But I didn't really know who you were before then. Was that like the year that you transitioned to going to Robbie's, or were you not racing all the races? Because you're at Loretta's when you were a kid too, right? What happened then?
Yeah. So Loretta's, I got hurt.
Sorry, I know I loaded a lot in there. My bad.
I think I got hurt 8 years in a row.
Oh, okay.
Like right before Loretta's. Like I would make Loretta's, and something would happen. Okay. And then I kind of like, I wouldn't say I got out of racing, but I serious. And then I was actually signed up, which I'm not even Catholic, but I was supposed to be like better education or whatever, and signed up for school. And a week before the high school started, I pulled out, went homeschooled, and I started riding more. And then I ended up going to Robbie's in 2013, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 2012. But so 2013, like I was super inconsistent. Like,
but so that kind of started that upward trajectory, because I think I went through a similar thing. You kind of got more into it, and then like sporadic good results with still crashing, but then it started to build.
Yeah, like Loretta's 2013, Schoolboy 1, or Schoolboy 2, I went 16-1 DNF.
Yeah. And
then 2014 was like really good for me. I got quite a few titles, and 2015 was even better. But I think as soon as I went to Robbie's is when I started to transition to be better.
Okay. Yeah, I just started that upward trajectory. And then, 2015 was when you turned pro. I think we turned pro at the same time, right?
Yeah, I did.
You had to
Loretta's.
You had to do more arena crosses than me.
I did. Oh, I remember that. You got out of it.
I remember seeing you at the first one, and I was like, I don't know if I'll see you next week, dude.
I got all my points at the second race. And so the first race, I crashed out.
Yeah, I remember.
The second race,
we hung out a little bit then,
yeah. Well, they made me go to the third race because
you had to make two programs.
Yeah. Dude, my dad had like a meeting with
just
whoever was the
screaming
guy.
just screaming my name and profanities at the guy the whole time, I'm sure. Right?
I think your name definitely got brought up.
I bet.
I remember it was a big deal that you did the first race and then they let you leave.
Yeah.
I was so mad. And
dude, I bet.
The third race that we went to, looking back on it, maybe it wasn't the smartest thing. I don't know. But I was mad. I was mad because I did good in Baltimore and I got everything I needed. And so it was like North Carolina or something the next week, and it snowed so bad that all the airports were closed. But I made the main and I rolled every lap of the main event, and AMA was so mad.
Like you went out, but you just went super slow in the way?
Yes. I rolled everything.
Dude, that's vicious.
The whole time.
You're lucky they didn't do something to you.
I didn't get in I didn't get in the racer's way or anything, but
you were a nuisance.
I made it clear that I was not happy that I was there.
That's wild.
Which, I mean, looking back on it, maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I don't feel bad.
Dude, that rule.
Yeah.
The rule when we turned pro, the rule was so stupid.
Yeah. You earn your points, right? In one race, you should have been good to go, right? Like you shouldn't have to make two mains or whatever.
Yeah.
I was good enough to make the main, get my points in the one round. But you're gonna make me do something that I shouldn't have to do. All I have to do is make the main. I don't have to score any points. I'm gonna stick it to you, man. I'm gonna stick it to the man.
Exactly. And I got third at Monster Cup right before that, and I was like, how is this not enough?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
there's some things there that are super questionable. I'm glad most of that stuff is gone for the most part.
yeah.
But
You still have to do futures, don't you?
You do have to do futures.
Pretty similar, isn't it?
I think it's like 5 points, and if you make the main, it's maybe 2 points and 3 points if you get top 10. But I
So
don't
it's
think
pretty.
there's
So it
a.
seems
I don't.
pretty easy then.
Yeah, I don't think you have to go to a certain number of races either. But I'm not.
It's
Because
all about the points. Yeah.
The rule right before it changed, and the reason I was able to scapegoat the system the way I did was because it used to be off of amateur nationals, right? And
Yeah.
you accrued a certain number of pro points. Well, so the year before my first year A, I had, or I guess 2 years before, right? Because I took like a whole year off with my head injury in between. But the year before that, I had accrued enough points to apply for my license and get it, but didn't because I planned on doing another year A. Then had that coma thing, took a long time off. They changed the rules. And so like I wasn't eligible at that point. Well, then we went back right before Cincinnati Arena Cross. We went back and looked at the rule book and saw that like at the time that I had earned those points, you had up to, I think, 48 months to apply. So I was like, hey, technically I still earned it then and can apply now, like per the rules then. We should be running that. So we argued for it. They didn't say yes. So I went to Cincinnati and then we talked to like Kip and whoever else while we were there and got approved, I think like the next on that Monday. And we had to, we had to drive back in the snow and sleet. And I got to San Diego, I guess I got home Thursday, but then went to my first Supercross race, like after straight up driving in a truck with my dad for a week. So it was pretty brutal.
That was funny.
Yeah, I remember the year before. So I think the year that you and I did it was the second year that they had the Arena Cross one.
Yeah, because
the year before, all you had to
Aldridge
do
did
was
the same
make the
thing as
night
me.
show.
Oh, yeah, it was super easy. Yeah, and guys wouldn't race. I think Surratt was the reason that you had to race the race.
Yeah.
Because Surratt made the program and then straight up loaded up and drove home and like probably gave him the finger on the way out. Yeah.
That's 100% what I would have done. That's exactly what I
sounds like
planned on
sounds
doing.
like what
you did the same thing, just you rolled around because you had to.
No.
Well, I mean, at Baltimore, I think I got second in one of the mains, and it was a 2-nighter. Got my points, and they were like, "You still have to make the main next weekend." And I'm like,
"It was
cost me money."
It was a big time ratings play for. I mean, what we saw, right? Obviously, Arena Cross was starting to die at that point, the television package, and getting this injection of amateur talent was what they were hoping would be kind of the tool to get the ratings back up. But it was at our expense. I mean, and that was a bummer. And it was like, if you guys had made more of an incentive to come race them, I think a lot of us would have done them. Or put a few on the West Coast for us. Like, don't make me drive to Cincinnati when I had a contract to race A1 that year. Like, so I was pretty bummed.
Yeah.
While I screwed you by dodging early, I still was bummed myself for the one I had to do.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's going to bring us to a point in the show to take a little break of our moto talk and dig into the word a little bit in our devotional dig. Zach's going to lead us in a verse reading, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Zach, you good?
Yeah, we're going for 1 Corinthians 9:24 is what we decided on, right, John?
Yep.
It says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Pretty short, but we were kind of just going back and forth about what applies to kind of our demographic of athletes and kind of that mindset and really jumps out at us. And I think this verse at this point in Corinthians, right, it's a letter from Paul to the people of Corinth, and Corinth, from kind of my study of early Christianity at school, they had like a huge, not the Olympics, but like a huge competition of athletic games. So it was kind of him taking their language and speaking into their world, which I think is huge, right? When we can share the gospel and the word in language that's familiar to people. And so for us as athletes, having that is pretty awesome. But this specific verse, right? Like, run so that you may obtain the prize. Everyone's running, run so that you may obtain the prize. It doesn't say that you have to obtain it. It doesn't say that you have to win it. I think it's pretty awesome in the sense of just pour your heart into things, do it with integrity, do it with your utmost. Kind of going back to John, your analogy of, if you're cleaning the bathroom, clean the bathroom like Jesus is going to be the next one in there. Do it with all your heart, and just know that at the end of the day, like, you gave your absolute best to something, is huge as human beings and being integral people, but even more so as Christians, to say, dude, I'm a child of God. That's why I did it to this level. I didn't just participate in the race. I ran my hardest, right?
Yeah.
I didn't just roll around at the arena cross race, but I mean, right. But when it mattered, right? Like, hey, I didn't, quit when I had stitches in my foot. I went out and raced to my absolute ability. And yeah, I didn't win the championship, but people remember that I went out and raced to my best. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We're all called to run the race, right? There's only one winner, but that doesn't mean one winner to actually win the prize, right? But
Sure.
That doesn't mean we are not to strive to be that one. And no matter where we end up, we continue to strive to do our very best, and continue to strive to be that one to win the prize, and in giving all of our efforts to the reason why we're even able to run the race, or whatever race that might look like, in the race of life, right? We're supposed to run our race to our very, very best to achieve the prize in the very end, and that prize is to inherit the kingdom of God, which is in heaven. To run this race of life to my very best, to show God, or to give God glory and honor in everything I do, no matter what it is. I might not win everything, and I might screw up every once in a while, but it's how I recover and what I do to press on and go forward, and to do my best to obtain that prize at the end of the race, at the end of my life, whatever that looks like to each one of us.
Yeah, so I think it's huge. I mean, I think back to like our conversations we've had with like Zacho and with Shane, and them talking about how, like, riding in the way that they do, just being hardy, gritty, down and dirty riders sometimes, is their way of expressing kind of who they are as individuals and who they are as people of faith. And then I think back to, like, obviously Zacho winning that last championship at Vegas, crashing in the first turn and getting up and riding super hard the whole race, but not, I mean, when he talks about it, like, not realizing that he was, I mean, it didn't seem like, to me at least, realizing that he was going to win a championship, wasn't racing to necessarily win the race, but was racing because in his heart, he had to race as hard as he could. So he knew everything was out there, and the prize happened to come with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the heart intention of I'm going to put my absolute best down every single time, no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's huge, but I think it's really, really hard, and it takes it takes a special thought and more than just having a trophy at the end of the day. Like, it's my walk. It's who I am to my core. To never give up, and that's, I mean, we could take that as a personal note, but more than anything for us Christians and believers, it is to give God glory, and as at a young age, and even with my kids, my dad taught me I never give up, no matter what. I teach my kids, you never give up, no matter how hard it is. You push through it and you finish, and you do your very, very best. If you give your very, very best, that's all I can ask for. But more importantly, that's all God asks of us, right? And no matter where we're at, we give our very, very best. We never give up, and we finish the race, literally and figuratively, in everything we do.
That's something I think it's rad also, like, to tie it back to moto even further, like, just that God can teach us through all things, right? And, like, I mean, the conversation we were just having, right? Like, Benny and I going back and forth of these stories of, like, eating crap and then getting up and going back out and, like, just trying anyways. It's rad that God can teach people through motocross what it is, you know? And I mean, Benny, that's probably something you can relate to, I imagine, pretty big, right? It's like how moto can train us as individuals just to be people that persevere.
In Oklahoma.
Yeah, that is super relatable, especially like how.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Okay. I was like having a full. I think that is super relatable, especially like how John said with his dad teaching him to never quit. That's something that you learn there, as well as taking that into motocross. And like you said with Zach, like just super relatable. Just you can learn so much through so many different like channels.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear good now?
Yeah,
I
we
think
can
we're
hear you
out
pretty
of
good.
the bad service spot.
Gotcha. Would you mind going back to what you were trying to say with your dad and those points? I know it's hard to pick up back where we were.
I think he said your dad.
Well, like how you said, what you said about your dad teaching you like never give up. That's something you learn in the Bible, you learn in motocross, you learn in whether it's running in school, whether it's, I feel like you can learn so much through God and use it in so many other like activities, parts of life. Like it just really translates everywhere. I think that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Bible isn't just a bunch of rules of do's and don'ts. It's honestly a map of how to live our lives, and I know a lot of people look at God as this big bad guy or thing, mythical, whatever.
Bearded man in the sky
with like a hammer or just like a gnarly judge ready to beat us over the head when we screw up, and it's so not that. God is our judge, but at the same time, he is all loving and wanting us to give him everything and give our very best. And there's do's and don'ts in the Bible, but it's so much greater than those do's and don'ts, and we can learn so much by applying the things that we do read. Just like this, like you apply this verse to your life, no matter what, things are going to be better.
Yeah.
Whether it's a job or anything, it's like, hey, no matter if you get the promotion or not, go out and give it your all, right? And let the pieces fall where they're going to fall. And at the end of the day, it's going to be better than not giving your very best and wondering, man, I wonder if I could have got that if I put my best foot forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that verse, you can translate that verse to literally every single aspect of life.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, it fits really well for I mean, getting ready for outdoors, right? With this uncertainty that you have. And like you were saying, like just putting everything you can into each day that you have the bike.
Yeah.
Right. Running like you're going to have it. Fighting like you're going to have it until it's stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that's easy to get complacent about too. I mean, I know I do at times for sure.
I think we all do. Yeah. There's days that it's like, I barely want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So getting back to racing, like, what is your game plan? How are we getting ready for outdoors now that we're looking at right about a month now that they're saying? Like you, again, I know Zach touched on it. You going?
I think he said 30s all the way through, right? Is the plan? Is that so? I guess, sorry, John, to jump you, right? But I'm going to tack onto that, right? I think that was what you guys did through the break also, right? Like having talked to Austin a little bit about it, sounded like you guys were just head down the whole time. Whereas remember when we talked to Shane was like, oh, we're kind of taking our break now and we're going to come back. And I think some of Alden's guys did the same thing. Sounded like you guys were like full steam, throw coals in the fire.
Exactly. I feel like most of the people took a break and we went. There were days where I was very unhappy with the program.
Yeah.
It seemed like we had 3 weeks where every day we rode was 235s.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all you like. Sometimes we would do more, but it was with 35s.
So just a lot of base stuff then, right? I mean, because that's not necessarily speed stuff. You were just getting your base built so that now you could hopefully focus on some speed stuff. Is that the plan then in the next couple weeks?
Yes. So like now we've been transitioning a little bit into shorter stuff.
Yeah.
But even like some of the days, so Monday I rode and we did some sprints and then 235s. But now that we're getting closer, if we do end up racing a month, it's right now because we have time going into outdoors, which I've never really uncharted territory for us. Yeah. But going into Supercross, we'll do long base stuff throughout November, and then kind of like the last 3 weeks, you'll start transitioning into more of the speed stuff, and then a lot less off the bike as well, which should be getting a little easier. So
yeah, that's kind of that taper method, right? Is to have your base, all your gnarly stuff built, and then the last few weeks kind of taper off. I did the exact opposite in 2015 when I turned pro. I was telling John about this the other day. I had come back from my head injury and like barely raced, went to the arena cross thing, right? So like it was really scattered, like 2.5 months, maybe 3 months of actually riding, even like since the head injury, which was like 9 months off. And then a month and a half of that was Supercross. So my first 15 lap race was San Diego when I was in the main event. Like first 15 lap moto, like had never strung 15 together on a Supercross track until night program gate drop. And I don't recommend it. So the taper method is much better, is what I'm saying. I've done both. The build of the base and then build speed at the end is a much better method than just prepping for the LCQ for a month. But hey, it got me in the main.
Well, then all you got to do is get there, and then it's whatever happens, happens.
That was the bulk of the money I was making anyways, was getting her in the top 20.
So what had they changed it to minutes when you raced Supercross, or was it still laps?
My second year was minutes. My first year I think was laps. So my first year was 15 laps. So then my second year I was way more fit and like actually pretty ready. But still I thought 15 minutes plus 2 laps was pretty tough.
Yeah, looking back on things, like now Salt Lake City, we had three races were 29 laps.
Yeah. That's insane.
It's like we're doing so much more than what we used to. And they're like, well, the races are the same. Like, well, they're not.
No, they're not.
They're longer. Dude, what so many people don't factor in is that a shorter track like that, you're doing more laps. The track is significantly worse in that time because of it. Like a longer track, it's easier to breathe when you have more space, but also the track itself deteriorates so much less when you cut off 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah. Especially if you go to a place like, I remember, I think it was 2016 Toronto. The track was like 42-second lap times, and the dirt was super soft, and so the track was just hammered.
Yeah.
At the start of the moto, and then at the end of the moto, it's like people are crashing left and right because it's so just gone.
Yeah.
I
had Seattle one year. I think I've told this story before, but I had Seattle one year. It was it was a mudder. So they ran the mud schedule. So we got like 5 minutes of practice. It was super short. And then went straight to the races. By the time the main event came around, it was so rutted and gnarly. We did like 5 laps, and then they red flagged. And so we restarted. So the track was even worse. And the finish jump, it was like you came out of the turn before the finish, and it was one of those steep rollers, and then the finish jump. So when you got into the turn before the finish, you picked a rut. And that was your rut all the way off the face of the jump, like over the thing and off. And it were all the way across. And so every lap, after like lap 3, every lap I decided this was the last time I'm jumping the finish. I'm not doing it next lap. Like I'm going to die. And dude, I went off the track probably 3 times, like just in the same rut, but it would hook right all of a sudden. And I just land on the blocks and then get back on. I was like, okay, I'm not doing it next lap. And then
you do it.
Well, because you can't roll the finish. I mean, you look like an idiot.
I was like 2018. I rolled the finish Seattle every lap. It was a mutter.
Oh yeah, so that's different. This was dry, just ruddy, and it was like, hey, I'm not getting a huge paycheck, but it's enough to keep the lights on. I better jump the jumps. Yeah.
I don't. The track, like, I'm a big fan of mud races, but I'm not a big fan of mud races when it's like
That in between.
Kind of like, yeah. And you still have to jump everything.
Yep.
But it's super sketchy. I'd way rather it be so muddy that you can't jump anything.
I've always hated that, and especially with Supercross, dude, it terrifies me. Like, oh, I think we could do the triple.
Not sure, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Did
maybe.
you race Vegas in 2016?
Vegas in 2016. I crashed. Yeah, Vegas 2016. I crashed in practice, I think, and broke my collarbone.
Okay. So it wasn't muddy in practice. It was
no,
dry
it wasn't.
in practice.
Yeah. I crashed in the whoops and broke my collarbone.
I remember after the semi, because they still did heat semi in Maine, or heat semi LCQ. And after the semi, Millsaps came in and he was like, triple's kind of hard on. I was like, what triple?
You're jumping over three? You're jumping three out there, dude?
He's like, the triple. I'm like, people jumped that?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, like 6 people hit it. I was like, oh,
crap.
You can scratch me down for, I don't care. I'm still not jumping.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when it's like that.
Yeah.
I remember, not to keep deviating down random rabbit hole stories, but 2014, I think it was 2014, because you got third at Monster Cup in 2015, right?
14. It was
2014.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, so it was 2014. Yeah. And that was when you did the start. It was split start, and then you came together, you right 180, and there was that gnarly 333.
Yes, I never jumped it the whole day.
Yeah. Okay, so I remember standing there I did it in the first practice, right?
Okay.
Like right away. I was like, I got to do it. Like in my head, I was like, I'm supposed to win. I'm jumping this thing. Here we go. Right.
I think it was only you, AP, and Jordan Smith were the only ones that did it.
Yeah. So I did it. I remember going back to the truck, and when we were at the truck, I was sitting there. I was talking with someone about it, and Weimer was sitting next to me. And he overheard it and was like, "Hey, dude, I wouldn't worry about it. Don't do it unless someone else does. I think it's pretty gnarly. I'm not doing it." I said, "Oh no, I already did it. I already jumped it." And he was like, "Oh," and he was kind of quiet, realizing that he should go do it. Well, then so we went out to go for the next practice. I remember being in the staging area with you because we didn't talk a whole lot, but I remember talking with you then, and I feel like it was Rookie White maybe came up and was like, "Hey, dude." That 3 out of the turn, what gear you hit it in? And I was just like, hey, but if you got to ask, please don't, it's really sketchy. Just don't do it. I'm not trying to be this, egotistical dude, but if you got to ask, it's a sketchy jump, just don't jump it.
That's funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. At that level, asking what gear is pretty sketchy.
Yeah, right. Dude, what gear you hit that in? And I was like, man, listen, it's everything I've got. I don't feel like our bikes are even remotely close enough for that to work. Yeah.
That's funny.
My wife just missed my exit.
Oh. Dude. Going for an extra little ride.
Oh, well.
John, should we jump into the final 5 here?
Yeah, we're going to close things up, Benny. So, Benny, we do a final 5 at the end, 5 questions that are a little bit out of the ordinary to finish up the show. You get to answer a couple of these questions, maybe 5 of them?
Yep. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So question number 1, heard you're a little bit of a gamer. So what's your go-to video game?
Supercross 3.
Supercross 3. No Mortal Kombat or anything like that?
I like Call of Duty. I really like Madden, but Supercross 3. For sure.
Supercross 3.
So this is not one of the 5 questions, but what is do you think best moto game ever? I say MX Unleashed, and I don't really hesitate on that.
MX Unleashed for sure, not a question.
Yeah, I was telling Mitch's boys the other day, and I found that you can buy it, you can download it on Xbox, the current Xbox.
Yeah.
You can download it. So yeah. I think we're gonna have to do that soon.
I think that's hands down the best.
Yeah.
Question number 2: what's the most useless talent you have?
Pretty good at unicycle.
All right. Can you go downstairs?
I think I used to be able to, but not no more.
Gotcha.
It's a pretty tall unicycle, I imagine.
Yeah. We might have already went over this, but what is the dumbest way you have been injured?
Ooh.
I hope he says something else. I hope he's got something even worse.
That was pretty dumb. I I mean, I've dislocated my shoulder on a trampoline.
That's understandable.
Okay, shoulder. I got up out of bed one morning. I pushed off, and my shoulder came out to the point where like I couldn't get it back in, and I had to go to the hospital and then put it back in.
Wait,
Oh.
getting out of bed.
I then had I had surgery a week later.
That sucks.
No way.
That's
pretty brutal.
I just pushed off the bed.
That's pretty brutal. I'm gonna say that's worse than jumping out of a tree.
I know a guy.
So.
I know a guy that blew out a shoulder going for was going for a backpack in the back seat and just pulled it around. Yep, and it clicked out, and then had to like get it back and try to. Yeah.
That's brutal. All right. Question number 4. What is the worst purchase you have ever made?
What do you mean by worst?
Like I would say worst impulse buy. I mean, so when I hear it, right, I think of my example right off the top, right? I went to Washougal, like I said, drove up there in my pickup truck, lost a lot of money on the trip as a whole. At what point in the trip, went to a hat shop and bought like a $250 fedora. That was the single worst purchase of my entire life.
So worst impulse buy. I bought quite a few things from like the As Seen on TV.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like what kind of stuff? Like a dicer chopper thing?
I bought a watermelon cutter.
Yeah.
It does not work.
Is that the one that in the squares? You roll it and it cuts in squares?
Yes.
Dude, I just saw that yesterday. I almost bought it.
Don't buy it. don't buy it. Like fans, I bought some fans off of like the As Seen. I'm from the As Seen on TV store.
Do you watch a lot of like?
There's a reason they're there.
Do you watch QVC or?
Last question we got. You prefer an awesome corner or a gnarly big jump?
Gnarly big jump's fun, but sometimes scary. Probably awesome corner. No, big jump. Big jump. We'll go big jump.
All right.
Throwing like a massive whip off of it?
Depends on how big it is.
Fair.
I'm not a big whipper.
I was gonna say, are you a big whip guy? I don't feel like you're a big whip guy.
I like to whip. I'm just not that good at it.
Gotcha.
That's funny. Cool.
So,
Right on, Benny. Well, I appreciate your time, dude, and your journey home with us in the back of your van. Whatever comes of this outdoors, and we wish you the best of luck and go out and give it your all, man. Again,
thank
you, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed it.
No, for sure, dude. It's awesome to catch up and to rehash old times. This has been really fun. And of course, dude, we'll be cheering for you. Best of luck in the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thanks for tuning in to RevUp. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any new content. Check us out every Thursday at 5 p.m. And if you're interested in learning more about Panic Rev, head over to panicrev.org or follow us on Instagram. Until next week, I've been John Parkinson. This has been RevUp. Stay healthy and God bless.